We're on, so just.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm just letting you know.
I haven't even drank anything.
Hello, everybody, and welcome into After the Game with Todd Leary. We're coming to you tonight live at Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Thanks a lot for joining us. Huge win tonight for Indiana, Todd.
How big?
It was freaking big. A 14.5-point underdog. This Indiana team could have been playing anywhere in the conference, and I don't think I would have picked them to win tonight. But in East Lansing, there was no way in hell I thought that they had a chance. Somebody asked me before the game if they had a chance, and I said absolutely not, none. Not only do they prove me wrong, which that's easy to do and done a lot, but they do it with almost two hands behind their back, Todd. Juwan Morgan goes out early. They don't have him. Romeo at one point is 2 of 12, and they win this game. Shocking. Yeah. Todd Leary joins me now. After the game with Todd Leary, of course, former Hoosier basketball player Todd Leary.
I mean, what can you say? We just bashed them as bad as you could possibly say they looked. I mean, there was no hope. There wasn't even a glimmer of hope coming into this game. And, people ask me the same question. What's their chance of winning? And I said the same thing, 0. They didn't show any life coming out of that last ball game. And quite frankly, I thought Michigan State would take advantage of them. And it's not as if Michigan State played horrible.
Oh, no,
now, they shot poorly from the free throw line, which was a gigantic help down the stretch especially. But it's not like they just laid down and didn't play well. Indiana just absolutely looked like they had nothing to lose, and they played pretty aggressive. It was fun to watch.
You talked about the other night them playing loose, something that they did not do,
right.
and you talked about on the show. This is an opportunity because they have no pressure on them.
Right.
They have nothing to lose, and if they can play that way, well, but I'll be honest with you, I didn't think there was a snowball's chance in hell of them playing that way or doing this, and they did it the entire game. They came out, they didn't start out on fire, but they came out and they played good ball. They were playing good defense, and they didn't get behind. They did the things that people have been looking for all year long,
yeah.
But again, they do it in a circumstance that is almost mind-boggling to not have Juwan Morgan and for Romeo to go 2 of 12 at one point. It's not what he finished, but to be shooting that bad and then to be in the game at that time, it blows my mind.
Yeah, and they still, we talked about it at halftime, they still went through a 5-minute drought of not scoring again in the first half. And so to be able to put themselves in that position, the end of that first half was big. When they hung around there, I think they were down by 3 at halftime, and when they were able to stick around and keep it manageable at that point, that was a huge deal for them. And, the second half was just fun to watch them compete. Had they lost that game, yes, you were going to take a moral victory away from it, no doubt about it. But you making the point of, if they're ever going to have like a magical game and turn it around, at Michigan State's not the place you're going to pick. And that is a big-time win and hopefully something they build off of. We don't want to be talking about this 2 weeks from now and say they looked great up there and pulled it off, but then laid an egg after that.
Yeah, and we talked about them needing a big win. This is not only the biggest win in Archie's IU career, this is the biggest win for Indiana in a lot of years.
Yeah.
They've only won, this is only the third time they've won in East Lansing since 1991. That's a long time. You played there a lot, you know how tough it is there, and for them to go into that environment with the losses they had tonight, coming in already with guys that are on the sideline,
right.
And then to lose Juwan Morgan during the game, Al Durham goes out during the game, comes back. I mean, you talk about the heart and the effort that they've not shown this year that we've talked about. You got to do nothing but give them credit because that's all they showed tonight was heart and effort.
Well, and I know you're going to hit on some numbers that'll prove this later on, but just having the guys come in off the bench and contribute, and not just contribute, but be a huge part of the momentum and scoring and to see, Jerron Davis was actually, they were having to come and double team him, and when they have to do something like that, that's when you would expect Romeo all of a sudden to probably break out and have an unbelievable performance, and he made some gigantic plays at the end. He didn't shoot the ball all that well overall, but when you can look at them having to make some changes and go double team the post, it opens up so many things for different guys to be able to make a huge impact. And I thought Al Durham took advantage of that. I thought Devontae Green took advantage of that, and definitely Romeo. Outside of the last shot of regulation, Romeo made some good decisions. Playing against Henry, he really wanted to play well against Romeo. I'm sure that's a little bit of a high school rivalry from the state of Indiana. So Aaron Henry wanted to play well, and he did. Defensively, he had kind of taken Romeo out of his game a little bit and frustrated him. But some really good decisions down at the end of the game, and that's something we definitely have not said a whole lot of recently.
If you have questions, comments, feel free to hit us on the text line, 812-269-6367. Also on Facebook Live, you can put questions on there. Richard makes a perfect point. You talked a lot about positive touches. He mentioned tonight about good huddles and positive touches tonight. This was a different team than what we've seen. You talked about the positive touches, and they're not looking like they were having fun, not looking like they were enjoying playing with each other.
Right.
That was different tonight.
And this can definitely it was definitely better tonight and much improved. But I think this is the kind of game you can really build off of. I don't want to start jumping to the next game already. Let's sit here and enjoy this one a little bit right now. But this is the kind of game you can definitely build some team camaraderie, and guys can all of a sudden, they're getting to the point in the season when it is a lot of fun. You're looking at those games in March in the Big Ten tournament, and then hopefully, a postseason tournament. So they're getting to that point in the season where they put a lot of the hard work and tough practices behind them. Hopefully they can build on this. But yeah, I loved seeing some different things out of guys tonight where they were even just high-fiving and talking to each other a little bit more than I think they have in the past, and that's a big deal for them.
Before I forget, I want to thank some people. First of all, we're coming to you from Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Thanks a lot to Mike Stockton and the entire crew here for taking care of us. As always, great place to come watch any game, especially a big IU game. But yeah, food is great. If you haven't been here, you're missing out. Also, Reynolds Family Dentistry. Jay and Roger Reynolds, one of our great sponsors. We really appreciate those guys. John Sweetland from Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling. Thanks a lot to you guys for being with Indiana Sports Beat, as always, helping us do this tonight. And, of course, Todd Leary being here with us. JT from Hoosier Nation fan page, or rather Indiana Hoosiers basketball.
Slow it down there, Chief.
I know, I got so much, man.
We're so excited.
JT, thank you very much. I can't believe
this
this from Indiana Hoosiers basketball fans. JT, thank you so much. But, yeah, this game was just shocking. We kept waiting, or at least I kept waiting for them to let Michigan State make this run that I knew was coming that never came. They played pretty good defense, but Michigan State helped them out a lot. We talked about numbers. Michigan State shoots less than 40% at the free throw line. I forget what the exact numbers were.
8 for 22. I don't forget that one.
How is that possible in East Lansing
I don't know.
for a team this good? This is one of the top teams in the country, the best, if not the best team in the Big Ten. A team that many people thought would step into the role of the number one seed since Michigan got it handed to them by Iowa. Well, now you got Michigan State losing at home to Indiana, who had looked like the worst team in the Big Ten the last time out.
Right.
Does this give you great pause for what they could possibly do this rest of the season? They could possibly turn it around?
Yeah, it does for me. I mean, I even said after the last game that win or lose Michigan State, I don't see the run starting until after that. And if it happened after that, that still had time to get into the NCAA tournament. And, I think I saw they had Indiana as one of the first four out going into the game today. And this obviously would change that. You're looking at a gigantic win here, and their third or fourth win over a ranked team this year. So, it's that kind of help for them. But I still, had they lost this game, I still think they had time to gain some momentum and get things going after this. But this obviously could be the hurdle. I mean, this could be the springboard that gets them to the point where all of a sudden they're playing as well as I think a lot of people expected them to. And a lot of those people includes Archie. I mean, I think he's expected a lot more out of him. And our complaints coming out of the last ball game weren't that coaching or offenses that were run or anything. It was just guys were not playing above their expectation. They were even playing to their expectation level. And we could probably rattle off 5 or 6 different guys tonight that did some stuff that impressed.
And we will.
Yeah.
Bill texts in, this team looked like a unit tonight, not a bunch of individuals out there. They were all on the same page. Boy, that's hitting the nail on the head. They were. Devontae Green, first game back after a 3-game suspension. He comes in with a nice role. I think he was one of the 5. Indiana had 5 players in double figures tonight. Very balanced scoring. You're used to it being Juwan Morgan and Romeo Langford, and that being it. Well, tonight you didn't have Juwan Morgan, and you had a very balanced scoring attack, with Romeo struggling a little bit in his shooting. But this team came together, and they did not falter when the going got tough. They had to go to overtime. They had a chance to win it in regulation.
Didn't falter. They had 2 pretty bad turnovers.
they tried.
They tried.
Certainly tried.
But yeah, you're right. I mean, they overcame that, which is a gigantic hurdle. And when you're on the road, those kinds of things, I guess, are going to happen. That's what you have to say, I guess, because they generally do happen. But to overcome those 2 late turnovers, and then everything that could have gone bad, when Indiana was up 4 and had the ball, if you could have stopped time at that point and said, okay, well, these are the things we can't have happen, all of those things happened. And they turned it over twice, and they gave up a 3-pointer to Winston, and everything was going the wrong direction. And they, fortunately, even after that horrible shot that Romeo took at the end of regulation, I mean, they overcome all of that, and it was this is a big time game changer for them.
Ed wants to know if Todd, you gave them a pep talk before the game, before they went to East Lansing, because this was a different team, man.
Well, yeah, I tell you what, it would have just been telepathy in here. Maybe they understood how frustrated a lot of fans were, but this is fun for them. I hope they enjoy it. I know Archie is the kind of coach that'll let them enjoy this for a day or two. But then at that point, it's going to be right back to work. And hopefully they all take that approach to it.
I'm telling you, John Tischner said he was impressed with IU. Boy, so was I. Absolutely unbelievable. JT, again, thank you very much, sir. JT Cockrell, thank you so much. We appreciate you. Eric wants to know, what was the difference between tonight's game and everything else that we've seen before? How did they manage to do this in East Lansing, of all places? After what we've seen leading up to this, there's been nothing hinting at this. It's not like they've been building and getting there. They were at the bottom, and man, they just catapulted. How, from your experience, how is that possible in a team to make such a leap? It's amazing.
Well, here's how it's possible: is they've been playing under their potential. I mean, we saw early in the season, they had a chance to do some really big things. And there were some spurts in some of those games where they played really, really well. And that's really added to the frustration of Indiana fans and announcers and coaches, I'm sure, of why how they've struggled so much in the last 7 ball games. But, they were able to do it because they have that kind of ability on this team. They've just not shown it in so long. I mean, heck, it's been December, at least very early January, before we've seen them play a game where they had this kind of intensity and emotion and this kind of contribution from so many different players.
Oh, and again, that is another thing. This has been the Romeo and Juwan show all year long. Right. And we've talked about it, and everyone has talked about it, because it hasn't taken a mental heavyweight to figure out they need help from somebody else, a third option, a fourth option. They weren't getting it from anybody, but tonight everybody is able to kick in. And I don't know what went on in practice, but something's different between the last time we saw them and tonight. They looked like they were looking for each other.
Right.
I mean, Devontae Green was looking. Everybody's looking. Deron Davis looked like a man possessed.
He did.
I mean, he played like he played last year against Marvin Bagley when he had a great game against Duke. But he came in tonight and was playing hard from the start. The effort level was crazy off the charts from everybody.
Yeah, it was. I mean, and this is one of those contests that there's really not a lot of explanation for it. It makes it kind of difficult because this team has. If they were ever going to pull this off, I think fans would have said, okay, well, you're going to need to have another performance from Juwan like he had against Butler, where he goes for 35 or 40 points. You're going to need to have the best performance of his freshman year out of Romeo. And, somebody else is just going to have to fall into having a good night. And none of those things happened. I mean, they couldn't have been any more opposite of all of that. And somehow, I think you could kind of see, I hate to say it, just because they won and played well, but you almost started to see them kind of believe in each other a little bit more, and they didn't mind if it was Devontae Green taking the three-pointer or Al Durham taking the three-pointer or Romeo taking the three-pointer, where in the past I think it's been a lot more shaded towards Romeo, and I think other guys may have even surprised themselves a little bit tonight in what they can accomplish. And, man, I'm telling you, when you start to get more out of yourself than when you surprise yourself, it becomes fun, and then you're really trying to get even better and do some other things that maybe your confidence level wouldn't have allowed you to do just a couple games before that.
And I don't want to lament the fact that the effort tonight, unbelievable, but the fact they win the second quarter, or the second half, rather, outscoring Michigan State by 3, but then they go the overtime and do the same. But what that tells me is these guys didn't stop. They just kept coming. And this is a team that has been defeated so early in games this season. That's another thing that is so amazing. They just didn't stop. They kept coming. They lose Juwan Morgan. You lose Al Durham for a while. He comes back, but they still kept going. And to come up with that kind of heart and effort, you've got to do nothing but take your hat off to them. But this is what we should have been seeing leading up to this.
Right.
So I don't want to get too overboard, and Michigan State helped them inexplicably not being able to hit free throws tonight. Probably, obviously, was not their best game. But to lose to this Indiana team when they're very beyond shorthanded, that's not going to leave Tom Izzo a very happy man tonight. I can tell you that.
Yeah, it being at home probably is the biggest thing that's going to get to him. But Indiana needed this a lot more positively than this is going to hurt Michigan State negatively. And so, that doesn't factor into the game at all. Obviously, no one's even thinking about that. But they'll rebound from this and they'll be fine. Izzo's teams always in late February and March are ridiculous to play against because they're so good. But Indiana really, really obviously needed this. And hopefully these guys will build on it the right way. Now, one of the things Coach Knight used to always talk to us about and make sure that we understood was sometimes it's harder to get yourself to work hard when things are going well as opposed to when they're difficult. And it's kind of, how do you deal with success? And this is a glimmer of success for them, but there's so much more they could add to this if they can go on a run. I mean, the schedule lays out for them to. They're not easy games by any means, and I am definitely not saying that, but there's some really good opportunities to have good wins in their next few ball games and finishing out the Big Ten season.
And it lays out better for them because they've got, I think, 6 out of their last 9 are at home, where they've been on this streak where 7 out of 11 have been on the road.
Right.
So it turns into their favor a little bit, and, man, it could not come at a better time if this is how they're going to play, because they did almost all of the things they haven't done this year and that they needed to do. Hit the three-point ball. They go 50% tonight. Hit 10 three-pointers. That's probably more than they've hit in the last 4 or 5 games combined.
Yeah, maybe in January.
They out-rebound Michigan State.
Never happens.
They out-rebound them on the offensive boards.
Never happens.
Deron Davis comes off the bench with double figures. Justin Smith has a double-double. Devontae Green comes off the bench with double figures. They had 28 bench points, which, again, is probably more bench points than they've had since December, maybe.
Yeah, who knows?
So they do everything that they need to do, and they do it without Juwan Morgan. And they do it on a night where Romeo had a good night by continuing to work, but he didn't shoot the ball that great, but he didn't stop.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't some freak performance that, we can sit back over here and go, well, they won because Romeo hit 13 threes or some goofy thing that you can't count on for the next game. Everything that happened tonight, they easily could expect themselves to do in the next ball game and the next 10 ball games. There wasn't some ridiculous performance that would be that you wouldn't expect to have happen again. But that doesn't mean it's going to happen again either, because we just sat through 7 consecutive games of it not happening.
Yeah, and a lot of people have talked about the offense, that not really knowing what the offense really is. Richard asked that not to take away from the great win, but he'd like to see Romeo come off ball screens and set up his drive. I don't know that that's Romeo's game, personally, but is that something that you think would help him, that type of an offense where he's getting screened and a lot of shots that?
Here's where I think Romeo's at his best, is when someone else has the ball and they drive and they kick it to Romeo, and then Romeo can make a move because his man is having to recover to him. And when a guy's having to recover, he's at his most vulnerable point defensively. And so that's when I think Romeo's at his best. Having the ball in his hands for that final shot, I don't think is the right thing to have him. And obviously, I don't think they drew that up that way. But to have someone else have the ball and drive, make two defenders come at him and kick it to Romeo, then he's got an advantage. And that's when I think he's really at his best. Not when he's dribbling around with the ball, but when he is the guy who receives this first, second pass, whatever it is, and then he can drive into the lane. They can't stop him at that point. He is virtually unstoppable if he is the recipient of a pass and his defense has to recover to him. He's not going to really drive around too many guys offensively. I mean, he's a great player. I'm not saying that, but he's not that great of a one-on-one, I'm just going to dribble and take you to the basket kind of player.
Jim Coyle with Indiana Sports Beat here with you, as well as Todd Leary, of course, former Hoosier great. On a big night for Indiana as they come up with a 79-75 overtime win in East Lansing over the Michigan State Spartans, the leaders in the Big Ten Conference. Questions, comments, you can hit us up on Facebook, of course, but you can also hit us on the text line, 812-269-6367. Let us know what those thoughts are. But this is something that they have needed in so many different ways. It takes just a little pressure off of them, but they can't rest on their laurels. But the good thing is now they get to come home. So they can actually start a winning streak. And you've got Iowa coming in, a team that just handed it to Michigan.
Right.
But Iowa's kind of been the elixir when Indiana lost their biggest biggest losing streak ever was 11 games in the 2009 season of Tom Crean's first year. They lost 11 in a row. Iowa came in and they beat Iowa to stop that. They do it against Michigan State tonight, but Iowa's up next. Hopefully that elixir will continue to move forward because this is the team that still has a shot at the NCAA tournament because of the wins they have. Now you've got wins over Louisville, wins over Marquette, and a win over Michigan State. A top 5 team, a top 10 team, and a top 15 team.
Yeah.
That's a pretty healthy resume if you don't have 8 losses on the board already, which they do. But I think because of their stricter schedule, they can get around that if they win some more games. This team will actually make it to the NCAA tournament.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
It is, but I mean, I think I said it the other night, and I still feel this way. I mean, you're going to have 3 seeds in the NCAA tournament with 8 to 10 losses, which is pretty much unheard of. But they have to win some of these. These will be quality wins. Even Iowa, playing Iowa at Indiana, that's still a quality win. But those are games you're going to have to play well. You're not just going to win. Indiana, I think, used to always just feel like, all right, well, we got some home games. Those are going to be wins. And obviously losing to Nebraska earlier this year at home wasn't expected. And so I don't think you can just say because we're going home, they're going to win. But surely they build off of this momentum. I mean, they build off of this, the way that they all played. It's not just the victory. This would have been one they would have come away with a moral victory had they lost in overtime to Michigan State.
Eric, what's asked any timetable about Race Thompson playing? Actually, I expected to see him tonight, to be honest with you. He had been out because of the head injury for a long, long time, but right now what's been keeping him out is he got the flu. So when he gets back from that, we don't know. We haven't heard a word on that. JT says he loves Romeo, but Rob has learned from earlier in the season and has the poise to take that last shot or at least feed Romeo on the drive. And I agree with that. I mean, I was looking for someone else or Romeo to drive because the lane kind of opened up, and you think at the worst case, try to drive and draw a foul. It didn't work out, and I'll be honest with you, when they took the game to overtime, I thought Indiana's chances were done.
I did too.
But again, resilience is it's really blowing my mind how resilient this team was tonight. I've not seen anything like that this year from them.
Yeah.
And for them to put that kind of a complete effort, it's crazy. But now that's gonna put some pressure on them because that's the effort they got to bring from now on.
It's a different kind of pressure for sure. But I mean, we did this show 3 nights ago after losing that game to Rutgers, and we couldn't have been. I mean, we're struggling for things to talk about because everything we said was negative, and I just felt like we were beating up on them. And I didn't think tonight would be any different. I thought it was going to be kind of the same thing. And obviously, I'm an Indiana fan. I'm hoping for the best, but I wasn't expecting the best out of tonight. But they really have to build off of this. Like, if they're going to make the NCAA tournament, they can't all of a sudden go back home. I mean, you can't lose that game to Iowa. It's just that simple. I mean, it's not must-wins, but it's a must-win.
No, and there's concern. We don't know anything about the injury to Juwan Morgan. I know it's a shoulder injury, and it is the same shoulder that he injured, that he had surgery on a couple years ago. I have no idea to even guess. So we didn't see him back in the game.
It's a good sign that he was sitting out there without like an ice bag wrapped around his shoulder. At least I didn't see one on there, but
hopefully it's
that's
just
a good sign. That's a good sign. And you know what? I love the fact that that because they won, I love the fact that they kept him out and they proved. If you really want to look at what other guys can step up and say, okay, well, I can't. Maybe we can do it, even without Romeo playing well and Juwan playing at all. They proved that to themselves, if nothing else tonight, that they can win in different ways. This wasn't a freak performance.
Yeah, and you've got to give all those guys credit because they all stepped up.
Well, we gave them all the discredit the other night by telling them how bad they all played. So we definitely have to give them the credit.
Well, it's actually been for seven games straight. Yeah. So that's another thing. They snap a 7-game losing streak.
At Michigan State.
Very
teams just don't say that kind of thing. It just doesn't happen.
Much less beat them. I mean, This is the team that's probably going to end up with 2, maybe 3 losses in the entire Big Ten season. Maybe. And for one of those to be at the hands of Indiana at home, it's crazy. But good for Indiana, and hopefully they can build on this. They have to build on this. But they got the things, like I said, that they hadn't been getting. That's such a great confidence booster. 28 points from the bench is huge for them. Now that will give them more confidence as they go forward in these games, and it gives confidence to the guys who aren't getting to play as much. How about Jake Forrester?
Yeah.
He didn't do a lot. He had 2 points on the night, but those 2 points were huge.
Yep.
It was a dunk that he had, very aggressive, and to me, that sends a message, especially when you're on the road. And so hats off to Jake Forrester, hell of a job. 2 points, he came in. When he was in there, he played good defense.
A guy like him can benefit from a game like tonight immeasurably. Like, it's hard to say how much this could show him, because it doesn't matter what you do in practice. It doesn't matter what coaches tell you or whatever. Until you get in a game at game speed and do it, I don't know that you're not questioning yourself, but I don't know that you ever truly have the confidence that a guy like him should have after tonight, because he proved he could play. The game wasn't too fast for him. It wasn't too athletic for him. He was a huge part. I mean, his stat line's not that impressive, but he was a huge part of them winning tonight. And, when you can say that, I mean, we could go down the list of different guys we can say that about, and that's fun for Indiana fans to watch. It's fun for me, at least.
Oh, absolutely. And JT mentions a great job on the boards. We talked about they out-rebound Michigan State and Michigan State tonight. 48 rebounds. That's a lot of rebounds in a game period. But to do that on the road and to do it on the offensive end of the court, they out-rebounded them there 20-14. 20 offensive rebounds. I doubt very seriously they've had 20 offensive rebounds in the game this season.
Yeah, I couldn't think of it when it would have been, but even if it wasn't against an opponent like this. And that's Michigan State's bread and butter. If you want to go back and look, obviously you nerd stat boys would be able to come up with this, but
hey, if it ain't written, I ain't reading it. I don't know it.
If you go back and try to see how many times Michigan State has out-rebounded at home in the Izzo era, in all those years, it's not more than a handful of times, I bet you.
How you played on some great teams. This is not one of those, but obviously it has some great talent that can really make some jumps. How does a team, and we've talked about it earlier, how do you go on the road to the hardest place you're going to play? You have played like crap for 7 straight games. You've lost to teams you should not have lost to. How do you go on the road, muster up that kind of effort?
Yeah, I mean, truly, it's one of the inexplicable kind of things. I mean, you don't want to say their effort, because they were trying to win at Rutgers, and quite honestly, the ball's kind of got to bounce your way some different times, and you got to have something, work out for you that maybe doesn't look like it should work out for you. And these guys, I thought the first 7 or 8 minutes in the Rutgers game, I thought that was them turning the corner. I really did. I thought the offense looked different. It definitely looked different than the game before that, where they took so many shots inside of 10 seconds on the shot clock. And so I thought that first 10 minutes of that Rutgers game was going to be the turning point. And then and then they proved me wrong pretty easily for the next 9.5 minutes without scoring. But this is one of those games. If you take all the stats, I mean, I said it to you during the game. If we would have said Juwan goes out of this game and Romeo is 2 for 12 at some point in the game, what's the chances they're not down by 20 plus? I mean, none of us would have bet against that. So you can really have an explanation as to how it happened, but hopefully this is the building block that gets them to understand what it takes to win. Everybody can be key factors in this. You don't just have to keep feeding the ball to those two guys. There's so many different guys that can contribute. And honestly, De'Ron Davis, his stat line is mediocre to okay, but he was such a big impact in being in there. And that's even with me telling you he didn't get up and down the court a couple times, and they got easy layup dunks just because he didn't.
How about this stat for De'Ron Davis? 4 of 6 at the free throw line.
Yeah, that's. I know one of those.
And when those free throws came too.
Yeah,
they were
sure.
Free throws at the end of the game.
If Ward had been that for them, they would have won by 10.
But what an incredible night for De'Ron Davis. Also, we have to mention Justin Smith. You know, I've given him a ton of crap this year, and deservedly so.
You have.
But tonight, he did put the ball up a lot tonight. 17 shots and only hit 6 of them. But he has a double-double. He has 13 points, 10 rebounds, 10 big rebounds, because when Juwan Morgan goes down, they lose their big guy underneath, and De'Ron Davis comes in. He helps out a lot there, too. He also had 6 rebounds, so 16 rebounds between Davis and Smith tonight. Big. They come up huge for Indiana.
Yeah, and the fun part to talk about the effort with these guys is the guy who I probably think plays the hardest, and McRoberts, doesn't even dress in this game either. So you add him as a guy who's able to come in and add to your effort and your team and the positiveness. And he's always going to be a positive touch guy. That's why he's my favorite player out there, because he's always the guy talking, trying to get everybody involved. And adding him to this, he's not going to score any points probably because he's not going to shoot, but he does so many different things for you. So it's just that extra thing to be able to add to him. Race Thompson, who knows? The guy could come out and be an All-American. We don't even know yet, but it's sure going to be fun. We have something to look forward to in watching him play the next few games.
Absolutely. And De'Ron can bring this kind of effort. He's been hurt. I was shocked to see De'Ron. De'Ron Davis was supposed to be parked until mid-February. So he's back. Not only is he back a couple weeks early, he comes back at a huge time, at a huge juncture, but he gives the effort. I mean, I don't know if that game was as good as the game he had against Marvin Bagley, the third with Duke last year, but it was way more important and way more timely. And it comes in a win. So that was probably the biggest contribution he has made, maybe at his IU career. But if they can get that from him to finish this season, they can really finish strong if Juwan Morgan can come back, because I don't think you can count on De'Ron for an entire game yet. He's got a lot of conditioning to get through, I guess we'll say. But but I mean, it's like, you can add McRoberts to that, and he can take some of those minutes, and I think Forrester's going to earn himself some more minutes for sure. I just really think that they have a lot of positive things to build on. Now, hopefully they don't come out and lay an egg like they did against Nebraska at home, but and I certainly don't think that they will. But there's just so many different things for them to build on off of this. It's fun as an Indiana fan to think of who's going to step up the next game. I mean, we're almost like watching these guys grow in front of us. Well, it goes back to the expectations we had at the beginning of the season. Right. And JT mentioned that De'Ron showed flashes of his pre-injury play. We were hoping that was what we would see from De'Ron Davis, and better late than never, I guess. But it was there tonight at least. Hopefully that can continue, because they're going to need that to go forward. Eric says, or David mentions that if you beat Michigan State there, you shouldn't be another game on the schedule. You can't win. Yeah, well, unfortunately, it doesn't work that way, because I don't think Michigan State expected to lose to Indiana at home by any stretch of the imagination. So,
but you get the point. I mean, that is, you're right. On paper, that's exactly right. These just things don't play out on paper.
Yeah, so you're right. We hope that comes true, David, but that's not always the way it works. But thanks a lot for the comment anyway. And then Eric mentions that he's glad that he didn't
trim his fingernails on that block.
Oh, my God.
Cassius Winston. I mean, you
know what that reminds me of? It was the football game, the playoff game, where someone got a finger on the kick. barely touches the kick, and it's enough to block. And he barely got a finger on that ball, enough to block it. You talk about a game of inches, man. There it was.
Right.
What a great effort all the way around. And I got to tell you, for them to take this game to overtime and to still do everything they needed to do to win, although they tried to give it away a little bit, but to stand strong when your guy's down, Juwan is gone. I mean,
I just keep repeating myself and my thoughts on this, but in order for this to have happened, if we'd have had everybody that's an Indiana fan write down a list of things that had to happen for them to win this game, most of those things didn't happen. And you know, Fennessy didn't play that well. He didn't play that much. He was in foul trouble. You know, they didn't shoot the ball well. They made 10 3-pointers, which we're going to act like is the second coming for them, but it's just 10 3-pointers would have won them several more ball games this year. So hopefully that builds some confidence. You know, shooting is one of those confidence level things that they just went into the toughest place in the Big Ten to play, in my opinion, and shot the ball decent. And some different guys did it. It wasn't just Romeo. So it's definitely one more thing for them to build on.
Absolutely. Thanks a lot for joining us tonight. You can hit us up on the text line with any questions, 812-269-6367. Facebook as well. We're on Facebook Live, of course, if you're watching. We're here live at Bubba's 33 in Clarksville, one of the sponsors of Indiana Sports Beat. We appreciate those guys, as well as the great folks at Reynolds Family Dentistry in Sellersburg. Dr. J and Roger Reynolds takes care of us as well. And Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling, John, thank you as well. But a huge crowd tonight. I mean, the people were into this game. It was so fun.
We got the Kentucky fans out of here before Indiana started. It was awesome.
Yeah, it was a huge day. Louisville played at 2 o'clock. They got beat by North Carolina. Then Kentucky had a game against Florida, which they were able to pull out. But you talk about having the Bermuda Triangle of fans tonight. They were all here. Louisville fans, Kentucky fans, and, of course, Indiana gets to finish it off with a huge win, the biggest win for Indiana in a couple of years. What does this mean for Archie Miller? All the people that have been on Archie's ass about how he's not the guy and this and that and the other thing. This is a big win for Indiana, period. But this has got to be sweet for Archie. I know he's not going to look at it that way,
right,
but it is.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure he's going to say he doesn't listen to the negative stuff, so he's going to say this doesn't change a whole lot. But it doesn't matter who you are. I mean, from his perspective, he wants this for his team. He wants this for his assistant coaches. And these guys put a ridiculous amount of time and effort into game planning and schedule, you know, figuring out what they're going to do defensively. And when you just keep losing, at some point you're like, all right, I need to get these guys a reward for something. And this is a big reward for Archie. He's got to feel good about it. He won't make a big deal about it. He probably won't even crack a smile. But we know deep down he's feeling good about it. He's a basketball guy. This is a big win. This doesn't happen very often to go into Michigan State and win. So he knows how big it is.
And it's bigger for the players because they have been feeling this pressure, no doubt. The 7-game losing streak, the social media, Hoosier Nation's been acting outside of their minds half the time. But that's a lot of pressure for these guys. They're student athletes. This has got to be such a monster lift for their confidence going forward.
Yeah, I mean, you know, Indiana is what it is because those fans, just like you and me, are nuts. And we expect a lot out of them. And when it doesn't go the way we want it to go, we cry and whine like we feel like we deserve to be able to. And I'm the biggest one of anybody. Trust me, I've thrown more stuff at the TV than most of you. But it's this is one that you've got to feel good about. As the coaching staff, I think this particular coaching staff, I'm not sure the coaching staff that I played for would look at it this way, but these guys have got to let these coaches have got to let the players enjoy this a little bit and let them taste the victory and feel how good it feels to play above your abilities, as I keep saying they needed to do, and they've got a super opportunity right now. It's kind of a give and take with the coaches right now. You know, how much do you let them enjoy it versus now we got to get back to work, and it doesn't mean anything if we go back home and lose to Iowa.
And they've got almost a week off. They don't play Iowa until next Thursday, and that's at home. So this has been a weird scheduling year to me. There's been such
a bunch of Friday,
breaks,
Monday, stupid
weird
games.
breaks, and now you've got another long stretch here. But is from past experience playing, when a situation like that, they've been on the snide and they win, you snap a losing streak, you've got 5 days to wait. Is that great for them? Because injuries
better than losing headed into it.
Well, right, of course. But I mean, especially with the injuries, having this break has got to be good for them. Their confidence is going to be floating high, and to try to get some of these guys back from an injury standpoint.
So here's what will happen tomorrow, and this is the benefit for them winning this ball game, because tomorrow the guys who are hurt, which is most of the team, will come in and they'll get some kind of treatment or whatever they do. They'll probably bring in some food and watch the Super Bowl or a little bit of the Super Bowl together, and everybody will have a little bit different. It'll be a little bonding experience for all of them to enjoy it a little bit, get to know each other a little bit better. I mean, believe me, you spend enough time with these guys, you don't want to spend more than you need to a lot of times with your teammates. But this is a bonding experience for them. This is a time when everybody's going to be in a good mood tomorrow. You know, when you lose a game, it doesn't matter if you're expected to lose it or if it was a horrific loss at home. You know, you almost don't feel right smiling or having fun. And these guys have earned the right, at least for Super Bowl Sunday, to sit back and eat some wings and enjoy themselves. And, you know, I think that the coaches will allow them to have that situation and that opportunity.
JT wanted to know, and I kind of talked about this earlier, but it's a great effort tonight, a huge win, but it begs the question on why the effort, focus, and confidence was not there for the past 7 games.
That's the difference between Indiana fans and the typical fans, because now you want to know why it didn't look like this 2 games ago. And
well, but I understand it, because the whole time we're going through that, I'm like going, okay, what the hell, man? I go, really? You know, I was...
But you can't change that, and that's the way I look at that is, you know what? Now, if the why can be asked again if they go home and lose to Iowa, then the why can be there as to why can't you guys consistently sustain that effort and that focus and all of that. That's when you can ask the why. I don't know that you can go back now. You can go back and ask. It just doesn't do you any good, no matter what the answer is.
And if they were to, and God forbid, lose that Iowa game, this big win here is just lost.
It means nothing. It means nothing. So this has to be that momentum changer, and you know, we and all the Indiana fans have to be able to look back on this at the end of the season and say that was the turning point. And that's the game when it clicked. And what is it? I don't know. I don't know what it is, because it just influenced 5 to 12 guys on a team, but somehow they just had it happen, and they have to build on it. If they don't, then they go back home and lose, like you said. It doesn't mean anything.
And there's been precedents for teams in Indiana to not be, I'm not going to say be in the kind of a funk this team was in, but the 81 national championship team, they didn't exactly have a great start to the year, but they caught fire and they played. And I'm not suggesting that this team's going to go to the Final Four, win a national championship, anything like that.
That's what I heard.
Yeah. But that 81 team had a bad start to the season, and they got things put together and went on and won the national championship. A team like the 2002 team that when you were on the call with A.J. Moye and that group, Mike Davis was the coach then. That's not a team I expected to see at the Final Four.
Right.
That was not a team I expected to be down to Duke and come back and beat them and go on, but they did. So those kind of things are obviously possible. They've done it before. What's the ceiling for this team?
I mean, it's hard to say. If they could gel and get things going, I mean, we're leaving out. It's hard to say what they could possibly do, considering we don't have any idea what Juwan Morgan's situation is going to be. I mean, if he can't play, I mean, I hate to say it's that big of an impact, but I don't know that Indiana can do super great things if they don't have Juwan Morgan. But, I don't know. I think that this shows they've got tons more opportunity than what we thought at least 3 days ago.
And did losing Juwan Morgan tonight in some strange way help this team grow up?
For tonight, yes. I mean, does that mean they could win a bunch of ball games without him? No, I don't believe that. I think he is a huge factor for them to be able to win. Tonight, did it possibly make some guys find out some more about themselves and believe that they can do some things that maybe they didn't think they could do 4 hours ago, then yeah, I definitely think it could have had that effect.
And the fact that they all did stand up, that has got that may have been the biggest thing for this Indiana team in, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 years.
Yeah.
For the bolt of confidence that they were given tonight from that.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at right now, I mean, you said that they picked Justin Smith as a player of the game afterwards, and I'll be honest with you, like, we kind of chuckled about it, but there's so many different opportunities of guys you could have picked in this. Like, there's 4 or 5 legit guys you could have said made plays that were that big of a contribution that they deserve to be. I'm sure just simply because of stats and the fingernail block, that's probably why they picked Justin Smith. But, Fish used to let me pick that after the game, and I used to just come up with some random thing. He would just shake his head because one little play would have stood out to me, and I'd have picked that guy. And I would say maybe Eric Sears doing the same thing.
Well, who else you got to pick? To me, I'm thinking Deron Davis personally, just because
his impact to me was bigger in that game. I mean, he didn't have that big block at the end. Justin, say maybe they don't win if that doesn't happen, but the way that Michigan State had to kind of change the way they defended things because of Deron Davis, that's where I really probably felt like that guy influenced the game more than anyone else. But I mean, we could make arguments. We haven't said his name one time, but you could make a good argument for Al Durham. I thought Al Durham continued his aggressiveness. We talked about it in Rutgers. I really thought that he still played offensively pretty aggressive, even though he didn't have a great stat line. They didn't win.
He had a pretty good stat line, though. He had 14 points on 4 of 8 shooting, 3 of 5 behind the 3-point line, 3 of 4 at the free throw line. It's a pretty good night. 3 rebounds, 3 assists, 1 personal foul. He had 3 turnovers in 37 minutes. That's a pretty damn good stat line for him.
When you can get a guy that scores 14 points on 8 shots and gets 3 rebounds and 3 assists, that's a pretty good line for a guy who I would not say Indiana was expecting a huge game out of him. And that's not a huge game. That's a very solid game. And there's no stat line that's on there that I think we're going to look at it and be like, that'd be tough for him to repeat. All these guys are capable of doing everything they did tonight. It's just hopefully this gives them the positive confidence to do it game after game more consistently.
And I'll tell you someone else we haven't talked about much. First game back tonight, Devontae Green after a 3-game suspension. His stat line, 11 points on 4 of 8 shooting, 3 of 4 behind the 3-point line. He didn't go to the free throw line, but he had 5 rebounds. He had 5 assists. He had 0 turnovers.
What?
No, 4 turnovers.
Yeah,
my bad.
Say,
even with that, that's in 34 minutes. So I can live with that. When that kind of a stat line, I mean, he was efficient, very efficient. He shot 3 of 4 from behind the 3-point line. That was huge.
Here's why we can live with that, because
they won the game.
That's a 2-guard. Well, and that's a 2-guard handling the ball an awful lot. And so he's not a point guard. You can stick him out there all you want, and I will continually tell you he is not a point guard. He's a scoring guard. In high school, he probably shot 20 times a game. He's a scorer. And for him to have 4 turnovers, I'm telling you, he offset it by having the 5 rebounds and 5 assists. That's a huge night out of your point guard.
Rob Fennessy has been struggling of late. His struggles continue tonight. He only played 18 minutes in this game.
He had foul trouble early.
Fouled out. Yep. Fouls out of this ball game. He had 1 shot. He gets off 1 shot. He doesn't score a point. That's kind of unexpected, but he's a freshman. You hit the freshman wall sometimes. It's a learning.
And look who he's playing against. I mean, he's probably playing against the best guard in the league. Cassius Winston is one of those guys that physically he is not intimidating in the slightest. But for some reason, that dude just knows how to play. He puts you in bad positions. He can't outspeed dribble anyone to the basket. Yet he figures out a way to get right around the rim time after time after time. And maybe we don't give enough credit to the impact he maybe had on Winston. Winston shot 9 of 22 from the field. I mean, there's probably not too many people you would play where you wouldn't say, I'll let him go 9 for 22 from the field. Well, that's probably going to benefit us. And, I think Fennessy was probably – this is one of those guys that's tough to play against. He's probably – I mean, you could ask Clark Kellogg and guys like that what they think of a guy like Cassius Winston. And they're all going to tell you that he's a guy that's tough to play against.
Indiana only shoots 39% tonight. They're still number 2 in the Big Ten with, I think normally they're averaging 48% right now, which Michigan State was number 1 in the Big Ten at 3-point, but they only shoot 39% from the field tonight and win this game.
But that might have been the high water mark because I know we talked earlier, it was like 29%.
Oh, it was awful.
On.
And like earlier,
and they were still in the game.
Romeo goes 6 of 18 tonight. Not a great. He was 2 of 12 for midway through, but he
so
19
points.
last
6, right?
Crunch time.
Yeah.
And you can see that he wanted the ball in his hands, and that's a great sign. You want to see that, and he wanted it. He was wanting that shot. He was wanting the ball, and I've got no problem with that because he was really trying to make some good things happen, and for the most part, he did that.
He did, and you know what? Like, I don't know that people look at this maybe as closely. I bet Aaron Henry's family does, but that's kind of a rivalry situation. You know, I mean, Romeo is Mr. Basketball in Indiana. Aaron Henry is from Ben Davis and plays on the Indiana All-Star team. They played AAU against each other for years and years and years. You know, they're probably somewhat buddies, but it's also playing against a guy that's kind of your rival, in-state rival from a high school perspective. So I thought Aaron Henry played a great game against Romeo. I thought he made it very difficult for Romeo to score. I thought he made his shots, even the ones that Romeo made, I thought were difficult. So, you know, that's you don't factor all that enough of that into it. But when you look at the layup that he made towards the end of the game, where he scored on Aaron Henry and the guy who came over to block the shot, I mean, that was a gigantic layup. That was an enormous difference. And we see Romeo do that a lot, so it doesn't look abnormal. But that's not a normal play. I mean, he finishes that because he's one of the best finishers in college basketball. And that's where, you know, most other players are not going to finish that play. That's just Romeo being Romeo.
Do you have any idea how many blocks were? Unless this stat is wrong. I took it off so you couldn't see it. I've never seen anything like this. If that stat is right, there were 21 blocks in this game. Is that possible?
Goins had one of those guys had
is it possible Michigan State had 14 blocks?
Yeah, one guy had 6 or 7.
Wow.
I can't. I think Goins or one of those guys had 6 or 7 blocks. I think, but
Indiana had 7 blocks, which is good for them. But I look over, Michigan State had 14. Wow. Indiana had some timely blocks tonight. That's for sure.
I feel like it was Goins who had maybe 6 or 7 blocks in that game. I felt like he kept getting a piece of so many different shots inside. Well, heck, they blocked Justin Smith's shot 7 times.
Well, we're used to that.
Yeah.
And JT mentions that Al, without a doubt, Al Durham is their best three-point shooter they have. He's shooting 39% for the year from behind the line. He's hit some big shots for him tonight, but tonight they got it from a couple of guys. But that's one thing Al Durham has really worked on. And you got to give Al Durham as another guy. He has been pretty daggone consistent with his effort and his play for this team.
Yeah, I think in the midst of that 7-game losing streak, I really felt like if you made me name one player that I thought kind of got pissed off and was like, all right, screw this. I'm just going to put my head down and go to the basket as hard as I'm just going to play as hard as I can, even if it makes a mistake. I think Al Durham would have been that guy that I said. And tonight, I mean, his effort didn't stand out tonight, which is a positive because I think that means other guys kind of did the same thing, but Al still had that tonight. And you know, he made some mistakes, but he was being aggressive, going to the basket and making those big three-pointers. I mean, I know we can remember the one Devontae made. I know we remember one late that Al Durham made, and we remember the one Romeo made off of the offensive rebound that kicked out to him. So, everybody contributed from that perspective. But Al, I think, has been the consistent guy that's kind of got that going for him.
And overall, I mentioned Jeff mentions that Rob fouled out but played good defense. The team played pretty daggone good defense tonight. They were moving their feet. They were not getting lost off the screens or off the switches. They were staying on their man. They were a lot sharper to me on their switches tonight, which seems to get them into a lot of trouble when they lose their guy and just leave them up for wide open layups. That didn't happen tonight.
Well, and one of the guys for Michigan State that has made improvements each year he's been there has been McQuaid. And that guy this season has been a huge factor for them. And I don't remember how many points he had, but it seemed like Indiana just kind of took him out of the ballgame. I don't really remember too much that he did, but that's a guy who, when he plays well, Michigan State usually wins by 20. And I want to maybe say, I don't know, Romeo probably wouldn't have been guarding him. I don't know who was guarding him. Maybe Al Durham was guarding him, but I think they equalized and took him out of the ballgame.
Kim says that Justin Smith grew up a little bit tonight. Exciting to watch at times. Yeah, if we can see that continuing, that will be great.
I'll take less excitement and more neutral good play. But yeah, you make a great point. He's a phenomenal player. I think you guys are mistaken, though, because you guys said he had a 48-inch vertical, and I think it's 4 to 8-inch vertical.
Yeah.
I think you guys heard it wrong.
I think you may be right. Absolutely.
He got a shot like 17 times tonight.
Man, that's the par for the courses. I don't get that for this season. Jeff mentions Duran created three-point shots with his inside presence.
I agree with you.
It was huge. Him and Justin Smith both had a good game tonight, but Duran coming in he is a presence.
Yep.
He's a big dude, man. He's got a big ass, and he uses it to his advantage now, and that's something Indiana has been lacking. And it was a very effective game for him tonight.
Yep. I mean, him being on the floor, you could tell Michigan State early on. I know they've seen what he can do in the past, but at least watching game film this year, they didn't have a whole lot to prepare for with him. But when he came in, you could tell they were guarding him one-on-one. They didn't feel like they needed a double team. It didn't change their defensive game plan at all. And after a couple of moves that he made and where they could see they couldn't stop him one-on-one, he did create that opportunity that they had to bring a guy to him. Even if he didn't totally double team, they shaded towards him, and that creates openings for other guys. And so, yeah, I mean, Jeff makes a great point with that. That's what we're talking about, of just his presence on the floor, even when he doesn't do great things, is a big deal for a guy like Romeo and for Al Durham and for Devontae and those guys. I mean, that can be a huge factor. When they can lay off of the inside guys, it makes it very difficult to get to the rim.
Getting back to Rob, Bill mentions that Rob was the best on-ball defender against Winston tonight. He was very solid against him.
Yeah, and I'm probably the biggest Rob Finney fan around. I mean, he to me as a freshman is the stabilizer for this team. Like, I think when he's got the ball in his hands, from a point guard perspective, that's when I feel the most comfortable as an Indiana fan, and that's with him as a freshman. So his ceiling for 4 years of being there is gigantic. But you're right. I mean, I think we have to look at the fact of he didn't play great offensively, but he's guarding probably the best point guard in the Big Ten, and he held him to 9-22 shooting, so he definitely had a positive contribution. It just wasn't putting the ball in the basket.
The other night, the game, Juwan Morgan was out for an extended period of time. They didn't have this big post presence, so they weren't. JT mentions that they got a lot better looks tonight, which better looks equal better percentage. They definitely got better looks tonight because they had a lot more action going on down low that was causing the defense to have to respect both.
Yep, no doubt about it. And the outside guys will always benefit. That's what, I was very fortunate to play with Eric Montross in high school growing up. And early on, I always thought, well, as soon as I throw the ball in here, that's the last time I'm going to see it. And Eric was one of the best passers, probably as a 7-footer in high school, that Indiana's ever seen. The state of Indiana, obviously, not the university, but he went somewhere
some
else.
Other school.
He went somewhere else. I didn't have as good influence as I thought I had with it.
Apparently not.
Yeah, or as I don't think Coach Knight thought I had. But I mean, when you get a guy like that I learned that having that presence in there can really be a benefit for me as a guard, and that's what Romeo, Rob, Al, Devontae, all those guys can really benefit from having somebody inside. And it's been Juwan Morgan. It's been all Juwan Morgan. Hopefully he's able to continue playing, and if he is, imagine being able to have both of those guys. You're at least going to have one of them in there almost all the time.
And if Justin Smith can continue this kind of play, that will maybe invigorate him.
You got Justin Smith fever tonight, don't you?
Hey, man.
Man, you're loving it.
It's huge. I mean, they've got to have these performances. They've got to have these guys step up, and he's one that has to do that. It's not an option to me. That's why I talked about Juwan being the de facto leader. To me, it's not. You don't have a choice. You're the elder statesman. It's your job. You're the guy on this team. You have to be the leader. Juwan has to be the leader. Of course, he went out with an injury tonight, but I think it's a role he's going to have to really embrace as this season goes on. If they want to continue building on this, somebody's got to step up and be that for them.
I mean, if you can add, you could put Forrester in that category too. If you can add Justin Smith and Forrester to Duran and Jawan, that's a lot of wands going on in there. But if you could put all four of those guys as some kind of crazy rotation, I mean, you could really wear some teams out. And you know, you've got the huge body with Duran. I mean, there's no doubt him banging against you is not going to feel good. And then you've got just the craftiness of Jawan Morgan, and then the athletic ability of those other two. It's a nice little, it's fun. This is how nerdy we are, but it's fun for us to sit here and think about putting all those parts together out on the court and all the different things they can do because they've done it for one game in a row.
Richard mentions, is Rob going to be the glue guy?
He is to me already. Like, I think we'll definitely look at that at the end of his 4 years and be like, you know, that guy had an unbelievably solid career, and I don't mean that as a negative. I mean, I think he has a chance to be one of the best guards Indiana's had in a long, long time. But he already, to me, has that poise and that steady influence on this team. And I, as a freshman, as you're early in your freshman year, I mean, that guy has come in and done things that most freshmen just aren't able to do.
Okay, they're leaving East Lansing tonight. They're going to float back to Bloomington. They don't even need a plane. They've got this 5 or 6 days, whatever it is, until next Thursday when they take on Iowa. What is this team's mindset going to be? What going to lay out these next days before this next game?
Well, you know, tomorrow will be probably, like I said, it'll probably be the day off. It'll probably be a lot of treatment for the injured guys, and it'll be the fun part is they've got thanks to who put the locker room stuff in for them. Which former player was it? Oladipo?
Oh, Oladipo and
Zeller.
Yeah,
and Zeller. Oladipo and Zeller put that thing in there. I mean,
the Legacy Lounge.
If you've never seen that thing, it is.
I thought you did.
I've seen it. It's pretty awesome.
No, I thought you put it in there.
I did not. I could not have afforded a little square of the carpet they had in that thing. But it's awesome. And you know what'll be fun? They got big TVs in there. You'll sit there and have some pizza and have some wings and all enjoy each other. Guys will be smiling. If you lose this game, they probably still would have had that tomorrow, but you're almost not allowed to have fun. You know, here we're going to do all this for you, but you're not allowed to enjoy it. And that's what, you know, tomorrow this could be the thing that gets everybody with that, you know, warm, fuzzy feeling inside about themselves and their teammates and the way things are going. And that is a 180-degree turn from where they were 3 nights ago coming home from Rutgers. So tomorrow will be fun. Tomorrow will be a real light heartedness. Monday, they'll be right back at it. They will be game planning, looking for Iowa. Iowa is I mean, you're right. Indiana's kind of used Iowa to get over some humps in the past, but Iowa's
used Indiana to stop some things too.
They are a crafty team that if you go into it without a good mindset, they'll smack you. Right?
Hey, they just beat Michigan by 20.
Yeah. And so, you know, you don't just look at it and say, especially everywhere. Look all across the country. It's not just Indiana. But we've already lost all the games that we can lose. They can't afford to lose anymore at home. So they don't have that luxury anymore. But you know, teams are going everywhere across the country, and everybody's beating everybody. I mean, you take Duke and Virginia out of it, I mean, everybody's beating everybody. It's crazy.
And Indiana is a team that I'm sure most teams were looking at when they see them on the schedule like,
Doormat.
Oh, awesome, yep. Can't wait. Well, now they're like, man, they can't rest on that. Now Indiana, they can't shoot. We don't have damn it. They hit. Now we got to. So now they have to be respected inside and outside. And they don't know who it's going to come from. And that's another huge thing about getting these performances from these other guys. They can't just focus on Romeo, can't just focus on Jawan. Now they've got to reach out and stop everybody.
Are you listening to yourself?
Can
you believe we would be making that statement 3 days after
No.
that debacle Wednesday night?
I watched the game, and I can't believe it.
I had to drive home for 3 hours after that, just thinking about how disgusting that team looked out on the court. Now I get to drive home with a big smile on my face all night. It'd be awesome.
It's a lot easier traveling that way than it was for the others. I'd like to thank everybody out for joining us here at Bubba's 33 in Clarksville for After the Game with Todd Leary, and of course on the DailyHoosier.com, IndianaSportsBeat.com, however you joined us. Make sure you catch Indiana Sports Beat each Monday through Friday live at 6 to 8. You can catch that on Big X Sports Radio 1450 96.1. Also on 97.7 The Ref in Evansville each Monday through Friday at 11 a.m. Or, of course, you can catch it on the replay Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Play, Google Podcast, Apple, iTunes, everything. Facebook as well. You can find us anywhere. But we'll all be here with you after each game. Todd Leary and myself. And looking forward.
I enjoy it.
It's a lot more fun when they win.
A lot more fun.
I could talk all night long because with the losing, it was getting kind of old. It was the same old thing. So thank God they gave us something different to do tonight.
Yeah, man, this was going to be a repeat. I mean, we could have just played Wednesday's broadcast again based on what the way I thought this was going to go. But, man, this is a lot more fun this way.
Absolutely. Actually, I'm not sure if we'll be back next Thursday because it's a 9 o'clock game. That's going to be a little late for us to be doing a post-game show because everybody's going to be wanting to go to bed. We may talk and
nobody's listening anyway.
Maybe do a pregame. I don't know what we'll do, but we'll let you know, certainly let you know. But thanks a lot for joining us here tonight, and stay tuned. We'll be back for certain. For Todd Leary, I'm Jim Coyle, and I will see you on the radio.
Did Jay get home?
Well, I just texted. So.